I missed my mortgage payment to help them cover their rent. 2 weeks later, I saw them post new furniture and a trip to Cabo. When I asked about it, my son's wife messaged me, "You'll be dead soon. Enjoy the peace while you can." I sat in my car, heart racing, until I remembered one clause in my will they never saw coming. Hi, I'm Paul. I'm 63 years old and live just outside Erie, Pennsylvania. My wife Deborah died 5 years ago and I've been living on my own since. No complaints, eh? Life slowed down, but I had my routines, my dog Henry, and a house that was fully paid off. It wasn't a rich life, but it was quiet and it was mine. My only son, Brian, lives in Pittsburgh with his wife Rachel. He's 35 now. Works IT. Rachel is, well, I'll get to her. Let's just say she came into our lives wearing high heels and a fake smile, and things haven't been the same since. Before Deborah passed, she warned me, watch out for the girl Brian's dating. I don't trust her eyes. At the time, I thought she was being harsh. Now I know she saw something I didn't. Rachel has always had this thing where everything has to be for show. She's big on Instagram, always posting pictures of her food, her outfits, her brand collabs like she's a celebrity. Meanwhile, Brian's been the one grinding a normal job to pay for it all. They never seem to have money, but Rachel always had new nails and phone cases and ring lights. Couple months ago, Brian called me. It was a Sunday afternoon, and I was watching a Pirates game with Henry asleep on my feet. Brian sounded off. Panicked, actually. "Dad, I hate to ask you this, but we're in trouble this month. Rent's due on the 1st, and Rachel's side gigs haven't paid out. My hours got cut last week. It's just a timing issue. We'll be fine next month." He said they were $1,200 short. He sounded embarrassed. Told me they were trying not to ask anyone else. I didn't hesitate. I told him I'd help. I didn't tell him what it would cost me. My mortgage was due in 7 days. I had enough in checking for one or the other, not both. I figured I'd cover him and just catch up on mine next month. I'd never missed a payment before. One late payment wouldn't kill me, right? I wired him the money that night. He thanked me. Rachel never texted or called. Not even a quick thanks. I let it go. 2 weeks later, I was scrolling through Facebook while waiting in line at the pharmacy. I follow Rachel's public page because it's the only way I see anything about their lives. And that's when I saw it. A giant white leather couch. New. Tagged at a local high-end furniture place in Pittsburgh. Finally upgraded our space. Hashtag blessed, hashtag modern living, hashtag aesthetic. I scrolled down. 3 posts later, Cabo, Mexico. Her in a bikini holding a coconut tagging some expensive resort. Hashtags all over the place. Sun, sand, and soul care palm tree sun woman getting massage. My heart dropped into my stomach. I stared at the screen for a long time. My fingers started shaking. My first instinct was denial. Maybe it was an old picture. Maybe it was a work thing. Maybe someone gifted them the trip. But the post was marked 5 minutes ago. I took a deep breath and sent Rachel a message. "Hey, just wondering how y'all managed Cabo after needing help with rent." No reply. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Then 30. Then I got the message. "You'll be dead soon. Enjoy the peace while you can." I read it 3 times. My chest felt like it got kicked in. This woman who had smiled in my house, eaten my food, called me Pops when she wanted something, just told me I'd be dead soon. I didn't cry. I didn't get angry. I went cold. I sat in my car for almost an hour, just staring at the dashboard, thinking. And then I remembered something. Something Deborah made me put in our will years ago after we first met Rachel. We had a clause. We didn't tell anyone about it, not even Brian. The clause said that our son, the beneficiary, had to show that he cared for our well-being and didn't abandon or harm us in our old age. If he didn't, everything would go to Deborah's sister, Susan, in Ohio. It wasn't just about visiting or saying hi once a year. It was specific. If there was any sign of emotional abuse, neglect, or fraud, the entire estate would bypass Brian. And now I had proof. Rachel's text. Their fake story about rent. Their vacation. The fact they lied to me so I'd cover something they didn't even need help with. I called my lawyer the next morning. He told me to collect everything. So I did. I screenshotted Rachel's posts. Saved the text. I even called their apartment complex and pretended to be looking to rent there. Asked if anyone knew if 3B had ever had rent issues. The lady on the phone said not since they moved in. They've always paid early. My hands were shaking again, but this time it was something else. Anger. Hurt. So I started making moves. I didn't tell Brian. I didn't confront Rachel. I just got quiet. I met with my lawyer and updated the will. I added even stricter language. Any threat made toward me, verbal or written, was now grounds for disinheritance. No questions asked. Then I made a plan. I started faking being sick. Told Brian my health was declining. Said I was going for tests. That I was feeling weak and might need help soon. He responded once, "Hope it's not serious." "We're kind of slammed right now." That was the last I heard from him. I told them nothing when I sold my house. I didn't list it publicly. I found a private buyer through my lawyer. A guy who buys homes for cash and fixes them up. Took a small hit on the price, but I didn't care. I took the cash and transferred it into a trust under my sister-in-law's name. Totally legal, totally clean. Then I moved. A small, quiet senior community in Butler County. Clean, quiet, good people. Paid the unit in full. Changed my number. Deleted Facebook. Gave Henry a new yard. 3 weeks went by. Nothing from Brian. Then the messages started. "Dad? Are you okay? Your phone's off. I'm getting worried. Rachel said you sold your house? What's going on?" Then he messaged my lawyer. "I think my dad is missing." My lawyer sent him a letter. It had everything. Screenshots. Bank statements. Rachel's text. The rent lie. Everything. And one more thing, the updated will. Brian didn't call me. He didn't try to drive up and find me. He didn't ask how I was. He went straight to being pissed. I know this because he replied to my lawyer's letter with a voicemail which my lawyer forwarded to me. His voice was loud. Angry. Like a teenager who just got his car keys taken away. "You can't do this. I'm your son. I've always been there." Rachel's text was a joke. "You're overreacting. You're letting Mom's crazy side of the family screw me over." That last part. Mom's crazy side made my blood boil. Deborah's sister Susan is the kindest woman I've ever known. She took care of Deborah in her last weeks when Brian wouldn't even take a few days off work to visit. But to him, she was just someone standing between him and a payout. I didn't reply. I wasn't ready to talk. I wanted to see what they would do next. It didn't take long. 3 days later, I got a call from Susan. "Paul," she said, "I got a weird message from Rachel." I braced myself. She said, "Hope you enjoy your inheritance. You won't have it long." Then a middle finger emoji. I told her to save it. Forward it to the lawyer. A week after that, my old neighbor Jerry called me. Said 2 people came by asking questions about me. Man and a woman. Early 30s. Driving a black SUV. They said they were your family, but they were acting weird. She was taking pictures of your old house. He looked like he was about to punch something. I knew it was them. They were trying to track me down. Probably thinking if they could talk some sense into me, they could guilt trip me or bully me into changing the will. But here's the twist they didn't see coming. They weren't just disinherited. My lawyer had started preparing to file a restraining order. And Rachel had made a mistake. That threat she sent Susan? It was enough for my lawyer to press forward with legal action. That text, combined with the earlier "you'll be dead soon" message and the rent fraud, built a strong enough case. We served them papers a few days later. Restraining order. Filed and granted in under 48 hours. I wish I could have seen their faces when it arrived. But then something even worse happened. Brian's job fired him. Apparently Rachel had used his work email to request a compassion leave for my death. She told his HR rep that I had passed away, and they needed time to process and make arrangements. The company got suspicious when they couldn't find an obituary. When the truth came out that I was alive and very much not speaking to them, Brian was let go for dishonesty and professional misconduct. That's when he finally cracked. He sent me a handwritten letter, mailed to my lawyer's office. I have it sitting in a drawer. Still haven't decided if I'll read it. In the meantime, Susan's trust account now holds the full amount from the house. She's been helping me manage it, only spending what I need. The rest will go to charities Deborah loved unless I change my mind later. Brian and Rachel, they moved out of their apartment in Pittsburgh. Couldn't afford it anymore. Last I heard, they were staying with one of Rachel's old college friends in Cleveland. Rachel's influencer deals dried up after someone flagged her posts as fraudulent. They tried starting a GoFundMe for wrongfully cut off by family. It raised $45 before it was taken down. They keep trying to find me. They won't. But that's not the end yet. Because the clause in the will wasn't the only thing they never saw coming. They don't know about the recordings. They don't know about the one person I've had watching them from day one. Someone close. Someone who knows more than they think. And if they try to make one more move, I'll drop the final piece. But not yet. So here's where things start to get really twisted. I told you I wasn't doing this alone. There was someone else. Someone they never expected to be on my side. That someone is Rachel's brother, Kyle. Now, I hadn't spoken to him much over the years. He came to Brian and Rachel's wedding, kept to himself, seemed quiet and uncomfortable with the whole show. He never really bonded with the family. Didn't seem interested. But a few months back, before the Cabo trip, before the rent lie, Kyle reached out to me out of nowhere. Said he wanted to talk. We met for coffee in a quiet little diner just off I-79. He looked tired. Said he didn't have much family left. Then he dropped this. Rachel's not who she pretends to be. She never was. Turns out, Kyle had been keeping tabs on her for years. Not because he wanted to, but because he had to. Their parents had left Rachel as the executor of their estate, and Rachel had emptied the joint bank account behind Kyle's back. He sued her once. Lost. She was slick and had everything in her name by then. I watched her do it to our parents, he said. Now I'm watching her do it to you. Kyle showed me emails. Old text messages. Even a private group. Rachel was part of some influencer chat where she bragged about manipulating boomers for cash. One message from her actually said, "My FL is a classic guilt puppet. I fake a few tears and he hands over rent. LMAO. I sat in that booth, coffee gone cold, hands trembling under the table. Kyle looked ashamed. I should have said something sooner, he said. But if you want help making this right, I'll help. So that's when I asked him to keep watching. He agreed. He gave me updates without Rachel knowing. When she and Brian started looking for me, calling around, asking questions, Kyle fed me the info. They even tried pulling credit reports on me. They paid a shady online service to try and get my new address. Kyle found the receipt in her email. He sent it to me. We forwarded it to my lawyer. Another nail in the legal coffin. Rachel and Brian weren't just entitled, they were getting dangerous. Then Kyle sent me something else. A video. Rachel had filmed herself in their apartment, drunk, ranting to a friend on FaceTime. She didn't realize Kyle had access to her cloud backup. In the video, she laughed about me finally dying off soon. She said Brian was too soft, that she was going to push the old man over the edge, and that once he's dead, I'll make sure we sue the estate for emotional distress. She actually said that. I watched the video 3 times. Then I sent it straight to my lawyer. That's when we decided to take things up a notch. We filed a civil harassment case, submitted all the messages, the video, even the stuff Kyle dug up from her influencer group. My lawyer called it a total character assassination of themselves, built by their own hands. But just when I thought it couldn't get worse, it did. Rachel showed up at Susan's house, knocked on the door like nothing had happened. Susan called me as soon as it happened. Said Rachel was all smiles at first, asking if Uncle Paul was around, acting like everything was fine. Then when Susan said I wasn't there and asked her to leave, Rachel snapped. Started yelling. Called Susan a thief, said she was stealing her future. Screamed loud enough the neighbors came out. Susan called the cops. Rachel took off before they arrived. We filed a police report and added the incident to the restraining order. But that's not even the worst part. The next day, my lawyer got a letter from a firm in Cleveland. Rachel and Brian were suing me for intentional infliction of emotional distress. They claimed I lied about my health to manipulate them, that I coerced them into dependence and then ghosted them to cause mental harm. They attached fake medical documents, doctored versions of texts I'd sent, screenshots cut out of context. It was insane. But here's the thing they didn't count on. Everything they claimed I did, I had documented they had done. And Kyle? He agreed to testify. He was fed up, said he'd stand in court and tell the truth about everything. I told him I'd cover his travel. He said no, he'd pay for his own way. This is my way of making it right, he said. So now we're getting ready for court. The harassment case is first, then their lawsuit. Rachel and Brian are broke, jobless, and scrambling. But they're still trying to play the victims. I don't think they realize what's coming. Because there's one more piece left. Something only Deborah and I ever knew. And when I drop that final piece, their whole world will crack open. We went to court in April. First was the harassment case. Rachel didn't show up. Brian came alone, wearing an ill-fitting suit and avoiding eye contact. His lawyer, some overworked, court-appointed kid, tried to argue the messages were taken out of context. Tried to say Rachel's threats were emotional venting. The judge didn't buy it. Especially not after we played the video. The one where Rachel, drunk on the couch, laughed about pushing me over the edge, where she called me that stubborn old fart who thinks he's going to live forever, where she joked about suing my estate after I died. The courtroom was silent. When it ended, the judge leaned forward and said, "This is one of the most grotesque things I've seen in a civil case this year. Restraining order, extended for 3 years." Then came the lawsuit they filed against me. They claimed I tricked them, emotionally abused them by making them dependent on my money and then cutting them off. They said I promised them security and inheritance and then vanished. They presented text messages edited. But we came in prepared. My lawyer had every original message. And Kyle took the stand. He explained everything. How Rachel had bragged about taking advantage of me. How she stole from their parents. He confirmed she made up the rent story, went on a shopping spree, then told people online I was on my deathbed. Then my lawyer called the bombshell witness, me. I stood up there and read the full, uncut message from Rachel, "You'll be dead soon. Enjoy the peace while you can." I showed the court my mortgage delay, the payment record, the wire transfer to Brian. I told them how Rachel had threatened my sister-in-law, how she showed up screaming outside her house, how Brian never checked in on me, how he stood by as his wife mocked me, milked me, and then spat in my face. Then I pulled out the final piece, the one no one expected. A letter, written by Deborah, 3 weeks before she died. In it, she said this, "If you're reading this, it means Brian lost his way. I love him, but I know him. He needs consequences or he'll sink. If he turns out like I fear, cold, selfish, blind to love, I want you to do the hard thing, protect yourself. Let him fall. He has to hit bottom or he'll drag you with him." I looked straight at Brian as I read those words. He wouldn't look up. The court dismissed their lawsuit with prejudice, meaning they can't ever bring it back. Then the judge did something unexpected. She ruled that Rachel and Brian had filed a frivolous lawsuit with malicious intent. She ordered them to pay all of my legal fees. Over $38,000. They both turned pale. Brian stood up and shouted, "This is insane. He's ruining our lives." The judge told him to sit down. He didn't. The bailiff had to escort him out. The aftermath? Rachel left Brian 2 weeks later. She moved to Arizona to stay with some influencer friend. Her accounts were already dying. People found out about the harassment case, the threats, the fake GoFundMe. She got banned from 2 platforms. She tried to rebrand. Didn't work. Brian ended up back in Erie. Not by choice. His name got around. No one wanted to hire someone who tried to sue their dying dad for cash. Last I heard, he was working nights at a gas station off I-90. He sent me one last letter. No return address. I hate what I became. I let her control everything. I was weak. I know I don't deserve anything. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry. I read it 3 times. I didn't write back, but I didn't throw it away either. As for me, I've changed too. I used to think being a father meant always giving. No matter what. That love was unconditional. I still believe in love, but not at the cost of your soul. I spent too long trying to keep a connection with someone who let a toxic person speak for him. I ignored warning signs. I let myself be used. So I changed my will again. Everything goes to Susan. And after she's gone, what's left goes to a small cancer support charity Deborah loved. Not a cent goes to Brian. But I did one small thing. I set up a fund. Quietly. Nothing big. Just enough for Brian to one day go back to school if he ever chooses to start over. He won't know it's from me. He'll just think he caught a lucky break. Because sometimes, revenge doesn't have to be rage. Sometimes, the best revenge is removing yourself and letting them live with what they did. But I didn't just disappear. I watched. I waited. I protected what mattered. And in the end, I gave them enough rope. They tied the noose themselves.